Welcome, everybody, to the Snap Count. I am Trai Essex, and I'm here with my quarterback. That's my quarterback, y'all. Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing, big fella?
Fantastic, man. So glad you guys are here with us. The Snap Count is your one-stop shop for all things Steelers, all things NFL, and just in life in general. Me and Charlie are going to bring to you all the things that are happening in camp this week. It's been an exciting week at camp as everybody gets their feet wet. We're going to talk about things in the NFL. We're going to get some fan reactions. It's going to be a fun show. Everything that you need to know about the black and yellow is going to be right here. And Charlie, I know you can bring some incredible insight to what the Steelers are doing. You are boots on the ground in camp, and so I know you're seeing some things already.
It is. It's a lot of fun, obviously, when you're back up there in Latrobe. Unofficial start, is always 4th of July, but yet when you get to this point in training camp mode, everyone gets excited. Latrobe, the fans are there. Over 10,000 people have been on a consistent basis throughout the entire time on St. Vincent's campus. So these players are ready to go. I'm ready to go. And what better way to join you talking all things Steelers?
Yeah, man. One thing that you guys don't know, or maybe you do know if you follow me in Charlie's career, my best game ever was with Mr. Charlie Batch against the Rams. And so this is truly special for me to be hosting this show with you. But we will go to a commercial break, and we will be back with the Steel City headlines.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
All right, CB, we're about to get into some Steel City headlines, which are brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the Fairway, which is beautiful. It brings us into the fairway, I think, of the guys that got inducted into our Hall of Honor. This were 3 guys that we hold near and dear to our heart because we happen to play with these 3 guys, CB. And let's start off by talking about none other than the guy that played your quarterback that you helped mentor, Mr. Ben Roethlisberger. What does he mean to you, and what does honor for him mean to you, Mr. CB?
Yeah, watching him go into it, I mean, we knew this was going to happen at some point. We didn't know exactly when, but I'm super excited about him. He's like a little brother to me because I saw when that on the field as we built that bond, him coming out of Miami of Ohio, I'm coming out of Eastern Michigan, and of course, just trying to make it to the NFL for the Mid-American Conference. That was tough by itself. So we immediately had a bond, build a relationship there, and then ultimately that carried on the field as well. And I just, when you look back and just watch at Ben's career, the things that he did in that meeting room was special because he learned differently, and people, he would always get that early on, he got the label of, last one in the building, first one to leave, but people didn't understand his learning style. And if you showed it to him 1 time, he got it. 2 confirms it, 3 times he's bored. But remember back then we had the old school VHS tapes. So it's not like digital like that now. Some of the coaches who've been in there long, they would be sitting there and sometimes they would be rewind. And we've been in meetings where the coaches will fall asleep hitting the rewind button, right? So those were things that ultimately, he got a little flack for that, but he was able to transition and translate that onto the practice field. And it was just beautiful to watch it all resonate because he put the work behind the scenes. And I think for me, that coming out party for him, when I saw it, was 2008. We were getting, going through that championship run, going through Super Bowl 40. And I know we're on the 20-year reunion of Super Bowl 40, but I want to bring this story into the equation because I just remember, and I don't know if you remember it, Trai, it was 2008, probably like week 5-ish, and we just played Jacksonville on a Sunday night. And Mike Tomlin is going through the highlights like he always does throughout the course of a game. And he was almost stumped because he could not even speak about the play that Ben made throughout the course of a 4th quarter drive. And literally people were hanging on his back. He's trying to evade people in the pocket. And he was able to deliver a crossing route to Hines Ward with everybody hanging on him. Coach Tomlin just said, man, I just have to let the play speak for itself, but there's no other words to add for this. And everybody in the room was just like, wow. Because they saw the catch being completed, but not necessarily everything else that went behind it. That just shows you how special that Ben was in this particular manner. I've just had obviously excited that I had the opportunity to play for him because he has been one special, and of course, one special human being, but also, being able to get the accolades in this particular manner, even though this is the first step of many, but it's just
Right.
beautiful to watch and many things that he deserves.
Yeah, first step of many. In a couple of years, he's going to be taking the steps in Canton pretty soon, and we'll be there to watch that as well. But yeah, I had a very close relationship with Ben, still do. And one of the things that I always came across as something that is unique about him is that he is a winner, dude, and he finds any way to win. And he did things differently. Like to your point, he was a grinder, but he won in different ways. So early on in his career, he play action pass. He would make the big play. We relied on our running game. We relied on our defense, and he was okay with that. He didn't need to go out and throw for 5,000 yards to justify his space on the team. But later on in his career, when the killer bees came around, you saw he was able to throw for 4,000 yards and throw for a lot of touchdowns. He changed his game up throughout his career and adapted to the way the NFL was playing. That's just a testament to the hard work he puts in, to able to adjust to the talent that's around him. And he made my life a lot easier. I mean, the guy brought 2 Super Bowls to Pittsburgh and went to a third. And so this honor is obviously justified. It's a long time coming. He's been fantastic for Pittsburgh, for the Steelers. When you talk about some of the plays that stand out in his career, and he has a bunch of them, one that stands out to me, because I missed a block on it, was the incomplete pass he had against the Baltimore Ravens when Suggs was hanging on his back. Probably one of the best plays I've ever seen, and it was an incomplete pass. But because of that, because he was able to get the ball out, we were able to score on that drive. And Terrell Suggs had him dead to rights. Unfortunately, it was me, number 79, that missed the block. He got around me, and Ben made me look good. But he has a lot of examples of doing that on the football field, and I'm glad that my brother is in there with the rest of his teammates. And leading in, it's very special that he got to go in with Maurkice Pouncey.
And that's it, man. You see those two guys when you talk about, Maurkice Pouncey, and if you know how special the offensive line was for Ben, he made sure he took care of his guys.
Yes, he
And
did.
when you have someone like Maurkice Pouncey coming in 2010, those were things that people were just like, wow. The one thing that stands out to me is the fact that even in practice, when plays were down the field, he's running 10, 15, 20 yards downfield to
every
finish
time.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, can he continue this? We're seeing, this is this young energy that he has. But
Right.
no, he was able to set the tone. And that was his mark in that meeting room. He had to prove to not only guys in your room that he can play, but also to the rest of the team. And he was able to deliver in that particular manner. And from the moment that he stepped in and was the day one starter in 2010, he ran with it, and everybody was right along with him, because that is the leader that Maurkice Pouncey was. And I'm glad I had the honor to play with him as well.
Yeah, man. He came in showing tremendous signs of leadership as a rookie. And if you know your Steelers history, you know how prestigious that center position is. We've had a long line of great centers, probably the greatest centers in NFL history, starting with Mike Webster, going to Dermontti Dawson. We got Jeff Hardings, and now Maurkice Pouncey. And so number 53 came in and made his mark right away. He came in, wanted to block the Aaron Smiths and the Casey Hampton, and afterwards running 20 yards downfield. And he continued that for the entirety of his career. Nobody came in with more intensity than Maurkice Pouncey. I love playing next to him. He was always in the playbook. You couldn't find somebody that worked harder than him. And also, I mean, we had fun. We had fun after practice, man. And so we had a brotherhood in our office line room that was close. I'm sure that's across the NFL in general, but O-line is a special group. Maurkice Pouncey came in and helped us win a lot of games, and he deserves it more than anybody. So I'm
He
very
does.
excited for him.
And I think just to add on there's 2 quick points that I want to add as well. There
Mhm.
very rarely that you would have to change the pass protection, because he got it right away, understood where the blitz was coming, and almost redirecting protections, already anticipating what was going to happen. But the other point is, and people will start to notice this as well, the shotgun snaps.
Right.
Shotgun snaps are all over the place. And Maurkice was so precise as it relates to where that ball was going to go, with so much heat on it, that you can actually able, and that takes a split second off from the quarterback to now not having to worry about catching that ball, eyes down the field, and delivering the football. Those are things that really people won't necessarily pay attention to, but as a quarterback, and Ben can attest to this as well, that was precise, and we appreciated those shotgun snaps right on the money every single time.
Yep. One word you can describe Maurkice Pouncey is straight up dog. And the third person you can describe the same way, Mr. 55, Mr. Peasy himself, Joey Porter. Tell you what, coming in as a rookie, I was terrified to block number 55. Dude, and so coming from Northwestern, coming from the Big Ten, I had my fair share of blocking some pretty good defensive players, some pretty good defensive ends. But coming to Pittsburgh was a whole different ball game. And so as a rookie, I had to learn right away that 55 don't take no plays off. You're going to get that speed rush. You're going to get that bull rush. You had to come ready to go. And so that's the one thing I love about our defense in general, but as a whole, in practice, they go hard. The veterans go hard. And number 55, Peasy, he's a dog, but he brought so much energy to the team. Every week, you always knew who had your back. Whether you're on offense, whether you're on defense, Joey Porter had your back. Whether it was in warm-ups, we had a very good story from 2003 against Willie Green for the Browns?
Yeah.
Got to a little kerfuffle with Willie Green before the game, but that just goes to tell you how hard he rides. One of his favorite pregame saying, "Let's ride." And so I'm very happy to see 55.
I don't know if it was 2003. It could have been maybe a year or so later. It was only because that's when James Harrison had his breakout game, because that was the first game that he started because of
I remember that. Yeah.
Joey Porter getting ejected out of the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so
I think, but to your point is, yeah, I played with him for 5 years, and when you just see the vocal leader of the team and everybody feeding off of him, he didn't just gel with the defensive side of the ball. He gelled with the offense as well, and everybody, not including special teams. So he was one of those guys that made it a point to try to build relationship with everybody on the team, because he wanted to know kind of what made you tick. Okay, how can I talk to you? Go, hey, what different ways that I can motivate you in that particular manner? Because he expected the best out of everybody, and he was able to get after the quarterback. And what better way? All of these years later, you still hear the the defensive linebackers that are all out there talk about who ride, we ride, who ride, that type of deal. And it was just special all around, because he was the one on that side of the ball that carried it. If you needed an emotional leader, you needed somebody to make a play, Joey was going to be there. And I would hope that, I'm glad he got in. I just thought he was going to get in a little sooner than what he did, because he is well deserving of it. Big time congratulations to Peasy.
And how awesome is it that he gets inducted on his son's birthday? Like, not only does his son, who is a dog in his own right, gets to play for the team that his father played for, but on his birthday, his dad gets honored. And so I think that's just an awesome testament. And also another story to your point of how he used to look out for his teammates, no matter what side of the ball it was. He was the ringleader behind the jerseys for the Super Bowl, taking Jerome Bettis to Detroit. We all got number 6 Notre Dame jerseys, and Joey was the one who led that charge to honor the great Jerome Bettis. And so that's just an example of the testament to the man that he is, the teammate that he is. And I'm just so happy to see 55 in there. Who ride, re-ride.
But also, even to that point, because Jerome was emotional. He was just like, wow. He didn't expect that, because that was a complete surprise with the jerseys. And the other thing that I love about Joey, he orchestrated Jerome running out of that tunnel. Nobody knew what was going to happen. At the last minute, Joey is like, no, give Jerome his shine. And Jerome had no idea that he was going to run out of that tunnel. He thought the team was behind him. And Jerome tells the story as well, because he was caught off guard as well. But you can see Peasy just holding everybody back, letting Jerome get his shine. And when he turned around and Jerome realized we weren't there, he just starts yelling, getting excited. And Joey's like, it's our time. And we all run out of that tunnel, man. That was special. He
didn't even tell JB. He just went out there and just let him have his like, what's going on? But yeah, that moment is going to be etched in history, man. I remember that video like it was yesterday. But it was awesome to see. Go ahead.
And we'll get a chance to see it all, because if we celebrate 20 years of that Super Bowl 40 team, we're going to see a lot of Joey Porter highlights coming up here over the next few months.
20 years, man. 20 years, CB, since that first Super Bowl in 2005. But it's awesome to see those 3 get in, and I'm so ecstatic to see them getting honored in the right way. And there's more things to come for them. I'm so excited. But we'll be back with more stories and updates from camp.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home by visiting pureavcorp.com.
CB, you know what's awesome? Football is here, man. Football is finally here. You know what I've been doing the last couple of months? watching soccer like nobody's business. Whole games of soccer. I think you say matches. You don't say game. My daughter has corrected me plenty of times about the terminology of soccer. And so intense.
Well,
But
you're better than me because I've been watching cornhole, so that's where I'm at.
oh,
So.
on the Ocho, the
Yes.
ESPN Ocho. But football is here, and that means training camp has started. They are already in Detroit. They reported on the 23rd, had their first practice on the 24th, which is never the funnest day of camp because it is the conditioning test. Which I'm not. What is the conditioning test these days, CB?
I think they run 10 110s right now. That's kind of what the test is versus what we used to run back in the day, those 1440s. That
Oh my God. No, it was 20.
monster.
It was 2040s, wasn't it? Or was it just 14?
No, it was 1440 because on the last one you had to go down and back. So technically it was 1540s that you had to run.
And they only gave you like 2.4 seconds faster than the posted combine 40 or something like that. Oh, that was brutal. But the guys came in, and by all reports, it seems like the team came in well conditioned. So it seems like they're ready to go.
They are. And I laugh because, I'm watching them run their 110s and it takes me back to those 40s that we were running. Right. And Coach Cowher would always make sure that the grass wasn't cut when we ran it. But as soon as we finished with the conditioning test, he brought the lawnmowers out. I'm like, really, Coach? That's what we're doing? So we would all laugh. But in this particular case, these guys are, you want to make sure that nobody gets injured in the run test. You want to make sure majority of those guys are already going to be in shape. And they've done a really good job of getting them. Everybody looked good. Broderick Jones came in phenomenal shape. So that was a surprise. Not necessarily a surprise, but they looked at him because I think he weighed in maybe, under 300. And he just looks really good right now as he's looking to make that transition from right tackle to left tackle.
Yeah, that is something that we're going to hit on quite a bit, especially, the O-line is personal to me, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. But as a whole, I know a lot of hype has gone into this camp with all the new faces in off season, like the Steelers have never seen, at least in my history of the Steelers. This has been a very unique off season with how aggressive we've been, I think, in free agency and some of the players that we drafted, the positions that we traded for, bringing DK in, bringing Jalen Janu in. How have the new guys adjusted? How have you seen like the vibe and the chemistry in this? We've only been 3 or 4 days into camp. Have you seen a good, chemistry starting to form with between the vets and the young guys?
Yeah, they're always there. You see on the defensive side of the ball, Cam is that vocal leader. TJ is there as well. So you can see the communication that's always going to continue to happen when they finish one period into another, because now it's very different right now during training camp, because before we used to have to wait and to go watch film. They actually instantly can do it right from the tablets that are on the sidelines, that they're able to view it. So if there's any corrections that need to be made, they can do it on the spot. So that's one of the biggest difference when we were in training camp versus where they are now. But all of these guys are buying into the Steeler way. I love with Jalen Ramsey on the defensive side of the ball. Those guys are all vibing. So, of course, he was one of the late additions there. But you wouldn't be able to tell that he got here so late because everybody is all gelling together on that side of the ball.
Right. It's Monday, and it's their first official day off, which means when you have that first official day off, we're about to have our first day in pads tomorrow. And so if anybody knows, practicing in shorts is good. It's a way that you got to kind of condition your body, got to transition so that nobody gets hurt. You practice in shorts, but you got to take that with a grain of salt. Sometimes the guys that are balling out in the shorts and the pads come on, something different happens. There's a switch that you have to literally turn on that gets turned on when pads come on for offensive line. And so I'm very interested to see what happens tomorrow in camp. I know two of the drills I know Coach Tomlin holds near and dear. Well, the number one drill that he loves the most is that backs on backers drill. What do you think? What have you seen from the running back group and the linebacker group? They're both relatively young, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, and we got Jalen Warren, and then the kid Caleb Johnson from Iowa. What do you expect to see? Fireworks are going to be cracking for that drill tomorrow. Who do you think has the advantage right now between the running backs? I know it's hard to tell with everything going on, but with it being in shorts.
Yeah, and I think, when you look back at that, like to your point, everybody looks good in shorts. When you're trying to establish the run game, very difficult to do, while you're in shorts because, you don't know, okay, will a guy get off the block or not? So, you can kind of get, let your eye do the test in that particular manner. So I'm excited about the pads being put on Tuesday. So, now it kind of separates, to your point, the JV players from the varsity players. And can they ultimately do it? And that feature drills back on backers. So when
Right.
you look at this, okay, one person I'm looking to, Caleb Johnson, he looked really good leading up into this point. And I'm sure everybody is reminding him, hey, this is going to be a feature drill that Coach Tomlin is going to
Mm-hmm.
premiere during the team meeting. So you better put your best hat on moving forward because you're going to get your opportunity to go against a Patrick Queen. These guys, he's chirping a little bit saying, wait till we get these pads on
Already
to
started.
see how you can do it. So he's going to get that rep. And if you remember a couple years ago, this is how Jaylen Warren got his start because he was running. Everybody was excited about it, but they wanted to see him in this drill. And when he was able to deliver, that's when you said, oh, Jalen's for real. So now who is the next guy, even though Jalen is a starter now, but who is the next guy that is going to step up? All eyes are going to be on Caleb Johnson. I promise you, he's probably going to get a crack at Patrick Queen. He's probably going to get a crack at Jack Sawyer. So whatever that looks like, they're going to go out there and highlight him. And they want to see, okay, are you capable now of taking that next step? Because everybody's excited about what you're doing, but take the next step and show the team that you're willing to step up in pass protection.
The great thing about Coach Tomlin, he lets you know. He lets you know that he's looking right at you. He lets you know what he expects. And I know that he's also expecting some big things by a guy we just mentioned, Broderick Jones, number 77. This is a big year for him. And one of the other drills that Coach Tomlin loves to go and watch is that pass pro protection, or that one-on-one pass pro over there with the O-line and D-line. And so number 77 is going to be highlighted a bunch. He's going to be going against Alex Highsmith, Jack Sawyer, Nick Herbig. And with that weight loss, I'm interested to see how he performs because you do lose some strength with the weight loss. Don't get me wrong, but physicality has never been an issue for Broderick. In my opinion, it's always been between the ears for him. And I'm hoping that he comes out and balls out right away, makes his presence known because I think our season hinges a lot on his performance. And so this camp is huge for him. It's a young O-line, so it's huge for the entire O-line, but especially for number 77.
But I want you to talk a little bit about that because you prided yourself on position flexibility, something that Coach Tomlin always talks about. You went from guard to right tackle to left tackle. How difficult was it for you in now being able to maybe share some of that experience that you have, that maybe the growing pains that Broderick may have to go through right now?
Right. I played strictly left tackle at Northwestern. And so when I got drafted, I played left tackle my rookie year. But I came in with backing up a stalwart O-line. We had Marvell Smith, the previous 77 before Broderick. I had to back him up. We had Max Starks at right tackle, Kendall Simmons at right guard, Jeff Hardings at center, and the Hall of Famer Alan Faneca at left guard. So I had to find a way to make this squad, to make myself valuable. And it's all about want to. Like, I'm a left tackle. I was a natural left tackle. All my footwork was left tackle. Had never played guard, had never played right tackle, but I consider myself an athlete. And so an athlete should be able to adjust, and rather quickly too, because if you don't, you'll get cut. The NFL stands for what, Charlie?
Not for long.
Not for long, right? And so what I knew I had to do in order to make this team, to make myself valuable to Coach Grimm, to Coach Cower, to Coach Wisenhunt, for them to trust me out there protecting our franchise, number 7, I had to go out there and show position flexibility. And so everybody who is giving Broderick this benefit of the doubt, saying that his development was screwed up because he played right tackle initially, even though he played left tackle, I don't buy that. I don't give him that grace. He is a first-round pick for a reason because he has shown that athleticism. And so he couldn't supplant, what's my guy's name that went to Tennessee, the left tackle last year? I'm drawing a blank.
You're talking about the from Texas A&M.
Yeah. He went and got a big contract for Tennessee, but for 2 years, he held on to that left tackle spot, and Broderick could not get him. And then Troy Fatanua comes in last year, and initially he's going to be the starting right tackle, right? And so Broderick has some stuff to prove, and I know he went into this offseason. I have faith in him. I think that he's going to make the proper adjustments. I know that he has a lot of people, a lot of noise from social media, and these kids have to deal with social media much different than us when we played. But he has to learn how to deal with it. It's part of the job these days. And so Dylan Cook, I heard, is doing well as well. So he has some competition to push him, and I expect big things from him this camp.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to cut you off in thought, but it came to me as you were speaking. It's Dan Moore Jr. That's what we were
Dan
talking
Moore
about.
Jr. Thank you.
They got I got the big contract. But I was always curious. Obviously, you know better than me. But when you go from right tackle kicking out with your right leg, and then ultimately left tackle kicking out, that again, you would know what that would look like. And I know he played more in college at one position than another. But if you spend your first couple of years at right tackle, is it like a light switch where you're able to just turn it on and say, I can go back and do what I was doing?
It's not. It takes work. It's not. And so as a professional athlete, as an elite athlete, you got to put in the work. There's no easy way to do it. It's not natural if you've been playing a certain position for a long time. And to switch to the other side, there is some technical differences. There's some muscle issues. Like when you've been playing right tackle for a long time, your left leg, your plant leg, your push-off leg is going to be a little bit stronger than your right leg because it's the one that you have to pulse with most of the time. And so making that transition and making your dominant leg, push-off leg, your right leg, it's a difference. And so that's why there's an off season though, a very long off season, longer than any other sport that we have, professional sport. The off season in NFL, you have time to work on these things. And he has a coach that believes in him, and Coach Pat. And so I expect him to make the transition. This is because he played left tackle at Georgia. I think it's more going to be like riding a bike for him because he's switching to a position he's more familiar with. And so I think once the package comes on, he's going to really show what he's all about.
And I look forward to it. I can't wait. And to your point, back on backers, that's when Coach Tomlin invites all media over there to watch. So that's going to be a featured drill as well. And then ultimately, when you go into these one-on-one drills with the O-line, D-line, and one person I want to see if he can continue with that power rush will be Derek Harmon. I want to see him go up against the Jack Frazier's, the Mason McCormick's, to see what he's capable of doing right there to now be able to complement Cam Hayward on that inside.
And we couldn't not talk about Cam without talking about the quarterback position, CB. These young O-linemen have a very hefty task in that they gotta protect 40. He's 40 or 41, 40-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. And so their job is paramount. But how have the quarterbacks been looking in camp? I know I hear all the hype from the fans whenever Will Howard comes in. So I know the most popular player on every team is the backup quarterback. And for this year's our fourth-string quarterback. But as a whole, how have the quarterbacks looked in your opinion?
Yeah, they've all looked great. I mean, when you just talk about dropping, delivery, accuracy, all of them been fantastic from that perspective. Of course, Will Howard, he is the fan favorite right now. The moment he even just steps into the huddle, the crowd is cheering. You got to turn around like, what happened? Did I miss something? Did something else go on? Until you really realize that, wait a minute, they're cheering because Will Howard is actually entering into the huddle. But, outside of that, when you look at where Aaron Rodgers is at, all the intangibles are there. You can just see him now getting more comfortable with the verbiage because they always practice with the helmet communicator as he's listening to the plays to make sure he's able to visualize it, be able to step into the huddle, spit the play out, get to the line of scrimmage. Those things are coming a lot faster, and that's expected because everybody else knows the offense. He doesn't. He wasn't here in the offseason. It's not like you can just turn it on and actually show up, especially whenever you haven't played in the system like this with this type of terminology. So you can see that rapport happening over the last 2 to 3 days. It's been special to see it because it's registering a lot faster to Aaron. But, Mason Rudolph, he enters as the backup. You can see him right now, again, learning the offense. This was not the same offense that he ran when he left a year ago in free agency. Now he returns and still building the rapport with Aaron Rodgers, with Will Howard. Skylar Thompson is even there as well. And you can see it's a really good group to be around because they're complementing each other, but they are also competing against each other, and they're encouraging each and every one to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Great job. And it's just one of those things that, that's ultimately the quarterback has to be the tightest room in the actual group or on the team, in my opinion, only because there's only one that plays. Everybody else goes into a supportive role, and you want to make sure whatever information that they're delivering to the starter is for the betterment of the team.
Right. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the guys that he's throwing to. One of the biggest signing outside of Aaron Rodgers, the biggest signing for the Steelers is DK Metcalf. And he came in. I know he's an opposing figure. And it seems like he's coming in making plays right away. But it's been much ado about our lack of a number 2 wide receiver. We have great tight ends. We had Calvin Austin, who I think had a breakout year last year. But is there anybody in that position group that's really showing up and really catching the eye of the coaches?
Yeah, I mean, DK is a stud out there. I mean, when you watch him, and just his physical presence is unbelievable. And it's very tough to stop on a slant route. His big body presence, he's going to get those jump ball. And that's the beauty of him being able to run the route tree. You just don't know what route he's going to run because they all look the same. And that is that is an attribute to him as he is putting this together. But ultimately, when you look at who the wide receiver number 2 is, you're talking about Robert Woods, you're talking about Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson. All of these guys are getting the opportunity to be number 2 on the other side. So this is going to be something that's going to play itself out throughout training camp. And again, who is going to separate themselves once the games happen? We know DK. We don't know how much he's going to play in the preseason. I think ultimately that's going to depend on the reps that Aaron Rodgers gets. But the moment that Aaron Rodgers is out of that game, DK will be removed. And whoever that quarterback is, if Mason Rudolph entering in that game, that's where you'll see the Wilson, Austin, Robert Woods, those guys getting the opportunity to prove that they can play and belong in this offense, because Arthur Smith is evaluating everything as it relates to what he's looking to do on that offensive side of the ball.
Let's start talking. Let's see what else is going on around the league. We'll be right back with the rest of what's happening in the rest of the NFL.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows, energy-efficient products at an affordable price. Visit smartchoicewindows.com today.
Well, we've talked all things Steelers. Now it's time to talk about some other stuff that's going on in the NFL. Coach Tomlin says you can't get to the playoffs if you don't win your division, right? I'm sure that's the strategy for most teams in round. So let's look at what's happening in Cincinnati. Some of the headlines coming out of there. Now UCB being the position that you had within the NFLPA, you have some unique insight as to the issue that Shamar Stewart had with his rookie contract, the issues why he was held out. He just signed recently. Congrats to him. But what was the main reason why he was holding out, and why do you think he finally decided to sign?
Yeah, for me, what I was hearing was there was language that was in his contract that was very different than what other first round draft picks had. So because of that, his agent was advising him, hey, because of the potential risk, I can't advise you from an agent perspective to sign this particular contract. Because if something was to happen, guess what? He would be on the hook. And then, of course, he would lose clients later on down because of the advice that he would give him to sign it. So that didn't happen. He stuck to his guns. They got the training camp, and they officially signed just recently. So it's good for him to be able to get back out there. But again, what does that learning curve look like for him?
Right.
Missing the entire off season, you don't have that experience of knowing the speed of the game at this particular level. How fast can he play catch up? That's going to be things that people watch when training camps as training camp unfolds and continues for the Bengals.
And to compound it, a veteran that he would be learning from in camp to help, I guess, speed that learning curve up. He's not in camp either. Trey Hendrickson is still out, holding out, hoping for more money. Cincinnati notoriously has not paid their players. Now, this offseason, they gave Jamar Chase and T. Higgins big contracts, and that was right after they gave Joe Burrow. And so they seem like their focus is offense. But we saw what happened with Cincinnati. Their issue last year was strictly defense. And so I'm not mad at it. Hey, Trey, stay out as long as you want to. I don't care if you come back anytime soon. But with TJ signing his big contract and Miles signing his big contract, I wonder what number Trey Hendrickson is actually asking for and what Cincinnati is willing to give. But I hope they don't give it to him, and I hope he stays out forever.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one because as you monitor this right now, the fines are adding up. And, based off the language, he doesn't have a chance to recoup that money. So whatever money he's looking for in a new contract, how do you now compound that with the money that's being lost every single day from a fine situation? So he's 30 years old. I know he wants this probably going to be his last deal that he gets, but also wants to be compensated accordingly. But when you see the contract that was signed by Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and then ultimately when he's next up in line, or you're talking about, Micah Parsons down in Dallas, the numbers are what they are at this particular point. Right. So what is the number that Cincinnati is able to rise to, and Trey ultimately lowering his deal for them to meet somewhere in the middle. So this is going to be something that, to be honest, I don't know if it ends anytime soon.
Right. And I hope it doesn't. I hope he stays out forever because hey, Trey Hendrickson is a heck of a player. He terrorized us every time we play him. And so, hey, don't work it out. Hey, stay away, Trey. Talking about the other team on the other side of Ohio and Cleveland, they got an interesting situation at quarterback, CB.
They do. And you know, the way that practice is structured right now is very hard to have a quarterback competition going on because there's no more two-a-days. You can't really evaluate in the walkthrough. Yeah, from the neck up you can, but ultimately you have one practice with limited reps. So how does that unfold there? You know, Joe Flacco ultimately is leading with the number ones, but you just had the injury to Kenny Pickett. So that frees up, you know, what the competition looks like, because now maybe you're able to get more reps for Shedeur Sanders. That is up there as well. So again, injuries are part of the game. Unfortunately for Kenny Pickett, that happened. And with that hamstring injury, that's nothing to play with. That's probably going to be at least a week minimum. But again, those reps that he's missing, now you get better opportunities to evaluate those young guys on the roster.
What did you think about those guys, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders? Did you agree with the Brown strategy that Dillon Gabriel, just strictly based on where they drafted him, they viewed him as a higher top-notch prospect than Shedeur Sanders? Is that something that you saw after seeing them play at all this offseason or this past college season?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look back from an evaluation standpoint, I think they had Shedeur Sanders rated higher than Dillon in this particular case, but they drafted him in the third round, and then ultimately Shedeur Sanders fell to them. But how can your lesser draft pick beat out the higher draft pick? That's not exactly what the organization wants. And if that happens, that means somebody's going to have to answer the question as it relates to why did he slip as long as he did. So that's something that ultimately will play itself out as you're preparing for the preseason and ultimately giving those guys an opportunity to compete for that backup role. And ultimately, if they had to play, who is a little bit more advanced and ready to play at that particular moment.
Right. And the other team in our division, the team that we're probably, if we have any chance at winning this division, it's the team that we're going to have to go through because they have arguably the most talented quarterback in the NFL in Lamar Jackson. They made some offseason moves and acquiring one of the best receivers in this generation, I think, in DeAndre Hopkins. And they also brought over Jair Alexander from Green Bay. So they brought some veterans as well. Baltimore, I think, is on the verge of being probably up there with Kansas City. I know Lamar Jackson has been a lot to be made about his lack of success in the playoffs, but I think they're poised to make a big run. I hope they don't, obviously. I think we match up well with them. But what are your opinions on Baltimore and what they've done this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, already they're always going to have a really good defense. So that's something that you expect. But they love to play ball control there. And I know you just mentioned D-Hop. That's there as well in the receiver position. But again, how much are they actually going to throw? Because they're going to run. Lamar Jackson's going to use his legs, and the ball is going through Derrick Henry in the year that he had last year because the way that offensive line is built. So once you get that running game going and ultimately freeing up one-on-one coverage on the outside, these are things that ultimately is going to play itself out. I just want to see how DeAndre Hopkins limits the emotions. Because it's one thing to be part of the game, but are you truly part of the game when you're not getting those throws? So that's going to be something that I pay attention to because as a receiver, you're going to get frustrated if you continue to hand the ball off to 30, 35 times a game like Baltimore likes to do.
Right. And Baltimore has a history of bringing in those highly productive veteran receivers over the years. Steve Smith Jr., Anquan Bolden, a couple of examples of guys. D-Hop falls right in line with those guys. It's going to be interesting what Baltimore does. I know they got Zay Flowers over there, Rashad Bateman. Zay Flowers kind of had his breakout year last year. So they have options. It looks like a very scary offense on paper. And so, things are interesting in Baltimore. And it's probably the team that we're going to go through if we have any shot at winning our division and hopefully securing some home field advantage to give us our best shot at winning a playoff game for the first time since 2016 or something like that. And so it's been well documented, but I think we got a chance to do it. And it's going to happen with what we do on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's going to be the main reason. But we'll get more into the season preview after this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
CB, something that always has interested me is the psychology of the fan. Okay. After our breakdown, I guess you could say, at the end of last year, where we lost essentially 4 in a row, there wasn't a lot of hope coming into this offseason. There wasn't a lot of hope even after the draft when we didn't draft a quarterback. There wasn't a lot of hope when Aaron Rodgers kind of just strung it out on when he was going to sign. And so, being a social media person that I am, there was a lot of negativity about Steeler Nation. But now everything seems to have shifted a little bit now that camp has started. And I think that's just the psychology of the fan. As the season approaches, that people get excited for football, opinions shift. Everybody can win the Super Bowl. I even heard Myles Garrett said the Browns have a shot at winning the Super Bowl. And so everybody has this grandiose opinion of their team right now. And I'm one of them. I am one of the ones that actually think the Steelers are poised to break through for the first time in a while and win a playoff game. But there are some things that need to happen. I have my opinion, but what are the 3 things that you think the Steelers must attack during camp in order to break through and win our first playoff game?
Well, I think you touched on it as well when you talked about the losing streak that they had at the end of the season last year. And the one thing that sticks out to me is Derrick Henry running on the run defense of the Steelers. They addressed that with Derrick Harmon. That's why he was in the first round. But again, that is going to be a point of emphasis that Mike Tomlin puts together as training camp goes through, because he wants to make sure that that run defense is stout in order for them to kind of get to the type of defense that they want to get to. Number 2, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers. How fast can he actually take that expedited learning curve that he actually have right now to now make sure they don't get off to a slow start as the season starts, because they're going to depend on that defense to make those stops. But again, how can now Aaron put those points on the board? But again, that comes with learning the offense. So I think that's a few weeks away, and only he will know the answer to that as we approach the week 1 of the season. And I think ultimately, again, what are you going to do in the return game right now? They just lost Cordero Patterson. He tweeted out that, hey, he actually was fired on his day off. So again, you're now in the market for a returner. So
is that breaking news? I didn't realize he got.
Yeah, that was breaking news. He literally just he tweeted out his own breaking news. He said, yeah, they let the old, I think he said the old veteran guy go, something to that effect. So again, that's going to be something that I'm paying attention to see who steps up in the return game. Now, I know the return game and the kickoff side is vastly different because of the rules that's happening. But at some point, where can you get those hidden yards? Can you get those 10, 15 extra yards in the kickoff return game? Or again, who's going to be your kick returner? Because again, you want to make sure that you don't always have to put the pressure on the offense to have to go 80, 90 yards every single time that they touch the football.
Let me ask you this. In an Arthur Smith offense, and does he need a number 2 receiver? A legit designated number 2? Does he need a T. Higgins to Jamar Chase? My opinion, his years in Tennessee, his best years in Tennessee when he was the head coach with Derrick Henry, when he had A.J. Brown and wide receiver, there was no true number 2. The way they ran their offense obviously ran through Derrick Henry. They ran him into the ground. By the way, Derrick Henry, I don't understand how he's still doing the things that he's doing at the age that he's doing it. The dude is running 90-yard runs. He's 31. No 30-year-old running back does these type of things. And so, but Arthur Smith ran through Derrick Henry, rightfully so, and they had a lot of success, made it to a AFC Championship game. Do you think the Steelers need to have a number 2, or can we kind of look at that model that Arthur Smith made in Tennessee and replicate it in Pittsburgh?
I'm over here laughing because you're still talking about Derrick Henry. And I'm like, well, obviously the Ravens have seen something because they just gave him a contract extension at the end of the season. Right. So that ain't slowing down anytime soon. But I think when you see where the Steelers are at right now, it reminds me actually of that 2005 season whenever Plexico Burress walked out the door. Everyone knew we were going to run the football accordingly and try to take that and control the time of possession. And at that time, people were questioning who's your number 2 receiver. You had Hines Ward, but again, they brought Cedric Wilson in here. and people forgot about it. And they kept talking about, hey, you need a number two, you need a number two. And Cedric did one heck of a job as a free agent acquisition from the 49ers that he got here. Didn't know much about him. So I look at this and I compare it very similar to what we're seeing now. Does Robert Woods have the opportunity to now, as the seasoned vet, to step in when not many people are giving him a chance? Or does a Roman Wilson, who essentially had a redshirt rookie year, come in and now be able to deliver? So I think they're going to give those two every opportunity to be that number two. And I know we have Calvin Austin, the ball's in his hands. He can take it the distance regardless of where you're at on the field. But between those three, they're all going to get that opportunity to make sure that they have the chance to be that number two. And that's why I like the position that they are, especially if they really are going to hone down on that run game. And it's going to be a one-on-one on that outside for any one of those three right now.
I agree. It is very similar to that 2005 team. Cedric Wilson, you mentioned. Nate Washington as an undrafted guy coming in and contributing. And then our first-round draft pick that year, Heath Miller, who became Ben's favorite target and safety valve, were a big reason why we were able to make the run that we ran and celebrate, or go ahead and get to the Super Bowl, something that we're celebrating 20 years after the fact this year. Man, we old, CB. We are old.
And we're seasoned, man. We're seasoned. These young guys are getting old. We're a lot wiser. That's all we look at.
Yeah, I like the way you put that, brother. But one of the things that I think is crucial, and it's crucial for every team and every offseason, extra crucial for us, and I'm hinting at it earlier, was the play of the O-line. We lose Najee, who has been a consistent contributor in that offensive backfield for the last 4 years, right? We got a Jalen Warren coming in, untested as far as it goes as being the number one running back, taking a fair share of carries. I think Caleb Johnson is going to probably get 10 to 15 carries. So I don't think Jalen will have the load quite that Najee had, but he's still going to be number one. So it's going to be a new role for him. But we have a young – go ahead.
Here's what I want to say when you're saying that. I apologize for cutting you out there.
No,
when you look at Johnson and then you look at Jalen Warren was your third down back because he spilled Najee. How is that going to play as it relates to him being the number 1-2? Can Caleb Johnson, spill him on some downs, or who is going to be your third down back? So that's the part, we're all going to pay attention to as, again, this training camp goes on.
And I mentioned our O-line is young. We have Isaac. I always butcher his last name. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to leave it at Isaac. We got Isaac, who is our left guard. Sayamala. I know you got to do it because you're gig. You got to make sure you say all the pronunciations right when you on TV. I'll be butchering them all the time, CB, but I'm trying. So Sayamala is out right now. And so Spencer Anderson, who's been there for a while, is getting some work. But when you look at our O-line across the board, we got Broderick 3 years in. Sayamala, who is, I think, 7 years, is by far our vet. Then we got interior-wise, who Aaron Rodgers, not as mobile as he used to be, still can move around the pocket. But as a quarterback, the most important thing, people think the left tackle is the right. That interior of the O-line is so crucial for you guys as far as stepping up and being able to keep your eyes downfield. And we got a lot of youth in there. I think I have all the faith in the world in Zach Frazier. I think he is the next in a great lineage of centers. He has the attitude, he has the mentality, and he now has some film that shows that he can go out there and play at a high level. Then we have McCormick, who came in unexpectedly after Charles got hurt, and came in and played well. They have a really good rapport, I think, between Zach and McCormick. And then we got Troy, who in his brief playing time last year, I think he started one game before he ended up being hurt. He showed some flashes that he can play at a high level. And so I think it's incumbent upon Coach Meyer and that O-line to really get the most out of this camp. They're young. They have to get all the reps they can. I imagine that they're going to play a lot in the preseason, which is not usually the case for an O-line. I believe we had 3 games. I believe they're probably going to play the first half of most of those games, being how young they are. They need the reps. And so it's going to be interesting how they gel, specifically how 77 does, how Dylan Cook pushes him. I'm interested to see how Zach Frazier does in his second year, because you still, as well as he played, you have to make that jump. Him and McCormick have to make a jump in the second year. And that chemistry between Frazier and Aaron Rodgers is going to be crucial. There were some snap issues last year between him and Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. There were some snap issues at the beginning of camp. I think that's going to be rectified. It's always, CB, you can tell me that's always it takes some time to build that rapport between quarterback and center, right?
It does, and more or less for Zach Frazier there, and then some of that comes with humidity too, because the ball's slick and he's sitting down, he's sweating on the football. But again, you play preseason games in the beginning of September, could potentially be hot weather in that particular case, so they don't want to hear about excuses. So he's going to get better in that particular manner. But when I look at that offensive front, the core right now of the two guards in the center, that is the strength of the offensive line right now, only because there's question marks at the tackle. You have Troy Fontana, again, red shirt rookie year, very similar to what you had with Roman Wilson. So we want to make sure he gets back on track. And if he does, man, this guy's going to be lights out. You're excited about that. And the only reason why there's another question mark on Broderick Jones is because he's switching from right tackle to left tackle. So if they can answer those pretty quickly, those are going to be things that you could be say, hey, hopefully this becomes the strength of this team, only because they have to protect Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't want to move. He's at his best when he's standing in that pocket. And if they can give him that time, Aaron will make the right decision.
Right. And I think we have some pretty good depth. I mean, between Spencer Anderson, who's been there for 3 or 4 years, we got Dylan Cook, who has some experience starting, and then Ryan McCullum, who came in and played really well, and Zach's absent last year. And so we got 3 guys that can play all 5 of those positions. So I'm excited about the depth of this team. But like you mentioned, that front 5 have to do their job. I agree with you also about stopping the run. That has been an issue for the last few years at the end of the season. We start out strong. And I want to ask you this, because this is my opinion, that the reason why the defense starts to, I guess, become a little bit more leaky in the run game towards the end of the season, they're worn out. By that point, the last few years, because of our offensive issues and struggles, the defense is on the field a lot. And it's usually by the end of the season, they're pretty worn out. And so I think with Aaron Rodgers, with his mentality, his ability to keep the ball moving, to get first downs, keep the chains moving, it's going to work wonders for our defense, especially that second half of the season when we need to be making a run and shutting teams down, especially in November and December.
And that's where you have to control that line of scrimmage. And the Steelers are working diligently to make sure that they are trying to control that line of scrimmage, because to your point, the defense got tired at the end of the season. So if you're able to control the time of possession and take some minutes back that they're off the field, those guys will be fresher, and then they'll be able to make the plays at the end of ball games to close those games out. So this is going to be something that, I get excited about as I'm watching them, because you can start to see it there. But again, we're in development stage at this particular point. We'll have a better answer as we continue to move forward throughout this preseason. But again, it's starting this week with these guys with the pads on. And by the time you rock and roll up a training camp, Trai, these guys are ultimately, you'll get a better feel for them when you have a chance to put your eyes on them to figure out what they look like. And I'm eager to hear what you have to say after you see them in person.
Yeah. I'm also looking forward to seeing this revamped secondary. This is going to be a big year for Joey Porter Jr., but we got a lot of new faces back there. Juan Thornhill, free safety. We got Deshaun Elliott, who is going to be looked upon to bring some leadership, because he is probably the lone veteran. Well, not the lone veteran, but the guy that's been in the Steelers secondary, especially in the safety position, with the most experience. Jalen Ramsey comes in. We got big play Slay at the other corner. So it's going to look different, but I think we have the talent, which is not only going to help our defensive line get after the quarterback.
And it allowed Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator, to now come up with exotic coverages, because he has 3 people in the back end that he knows can play man-to-man. So there's nothing going to be leaky there from a coverage perspective. This is where these guys, especially in training camp, why I feel like they're a little further advanced, because you have that veteran presence there. But again, you're not going to fool Aaron Rodgers with coverages, right? But it also shows that, hey, you have a lot more options at this particular side on the defensive side of the ball, just because you have 3 guys that can truly play man-to-man, and you don't have to worry about those guys getting beat on a consistent basis.
All right, CB, I need your way too early prediction for this Steelers team. What have you seen so far? Are you optimistic that this team can make a run?
I am. I'm optimistic, and I just watching them. This is a team that I think is going to fly under the radar because not many people are giving them the opportunity outside of Steelers Nation. But you don't have to. Playoffs are 4 months away. You want to make sure you're getting better as the season goes on. But early prognosis there, when I'm looking at this roster with the way that the offense is shaping up, I can see this team going 11-6. People are like, oh, they're not going to win 11 games. Yay. I truly am starting to get that feeling at this particular point. But again, like you said, Trai, this is really early on a schedule prediction as this season unfolds. And of course, a lot of that has to make sure that you stay injury free as well.
Right. And as we take a look at this schedule, we start out with the Jets. We did a quarterback swap with them. We get to see Justin Fields to start out. But those first 4 games are going to be crucial to see what kind of team we are. We got the Jets, then we got Seattle, and then the Patriots, who we always have a battle with, and then the Vikings. And then we got a relatively early bye before we get our first division game. The schedule looks different from last year. We ran into that gauntlet at the end of last year when we played Philly, Baltimore, and Kansas City in a span of 12 days. Doesn't look like we have that sort of gauntlet this year, but who knows how the season is going to shape out? Who knows what teams are going to rise? Who knows what teams are going to fall? But like you said, I am very optimistic about this team. I think all the stuff that's happening all season, all the stuff that people had issues with have been addressed for the most part. We have our quarterback. We have addressed the secondary. I think the one thing I think people may not have addressed or think that we haven't addressed is the number 2 wide receiver position. But I think we did that through picking up Jonnu Smith. I think Darnell Washington is going to be a huge target for Aaron Rodgers in the red zone. And I think Calvin Austin is going to have a breakout year. So to not get that name brand number 2 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, I don't think we need that. People know, like when we think about Aaron Rodgers and his career in Green Bay, did he ever have a number 2 receiver?
Not
So to speak.
name. Yeah, he made
Not a
that
name
number 2
brand?
receiver. Yeah, he
Right.
made that number 2 receiver. So that's exactly what he's doing. But I know we're coming up on tight on time, Trai. You got to give me the prediction. You are not skating out of here with no prediction. Give me your
What you said 11-6? I can't
Yes.
tell you, right? I gotta say something different.
You can say whatever. You can say whatever you want to say, but I'm not
Dang.
letting you off the hook when we get ready to close.
When I'm looking at this schedule, I think if we get through those first 4 games, 3-1, I think we can win 12.
Okay.
3-1 or better. I think we can win 12, go 12-5. Obviously, our matchups with Baltimore, I think, will determine who wins the division, because I think they'll be around the same record as well. But I think we have a legit chance at winning the division and winning our first playoff game, and God knows how long.
There we go. We're both on record.
Well, this comes to the end of our first show, the Snap Count. Charlie, it is a pleasure working with you, my brother. Looking forward to the rest of this season. Here we go.
Absolutely.